Therefore, I request that you honor your responsibility toward your child. He and his mother are living with me in Boston. I will allow you 2 weeks to contact me. If, by the end of that time, you have not chosen to honor your duty to your son, I shall be forced to take legal action. I assure you I have the wealth and influence to see that you do not continue to neglect your responsibility. I encourage, no, I insist, that you come with all due haste to Boston to settle this matter in an honorable fashion. N. Allen Eldridge. My son? Micah muttered, his frustration growing. He had no son. It was impossible. Why on earth would Lydia tell her parents that he had fathered her child? He folded the letter and shoved it roughly back into its envelope. Going to Boston wasn't out of the question, he realized. It would be at least another 3 weeks before his brother's package arrived in New York. He could spend some of his hard-earned money on a train ticket and be there in less than 2 days. But to go might acknowledge the accusation held merit, which was ridiculous. Still, could he allow this farce to continue? And what of this boy, Lydia's son? He must be between 3 and 4 years old, certainly old enough to understand a father's absence. What had the child been told? The questions tumbled in Micah's head as haphazardly as a tumbleweed blowing across the Texas prairie of his childhood. And then another childhood remembrance, a welcome one, intruded. His mother's voice tiptoed through his mind. Son, whatever comes your way, the good Lord knew it was coming and has a solution in mind. Trust him to guide you. The letter might have caught Micah by surprise, but nothing came as a surprise to God. Right there on the bench in the open, he closed his eyes and communicated silently with his heavenly Father. He offered the situation into God's keeping, and a feeling of peace settled into his heart. Thank you, he whispered, opening his eyes and focusing once more on the busy noonday traffic. He'd made his decision, and he trusted it was the right one. He would travel to Boston, confront Lydia and her parents, and insist that she tell the truth. Micah was not the father of this child. A twinge of sympathy pinched his conscience for the little boy. But it was not his responsibility, no matter what Lydia's father might think. The sooner the man realized it, the better off they would all be, especially Micah. Being caught up in his brother's travails was responsibility enough. He pressed his hands against his thighs, pushing himself to his feet like an old man. The situation left him feeling much older than his 36 years. But hadn't the burden he and Jeremiah carried aged them at least 10 years for each of the past 2? Another deep sigh set him in motion toward his small, lonely apartment. He'd make a couple of phone calls and arrange for a temporary replacement at the clinic. He couldn't hand off the other responsibility. He'd have to be back to take care of Jeremiah's package himself. But as soon as possible, he'd knock on Lydia Eldridge's door and bring an immediate end to this nonsense. Micah thanked the taxi driver with a generous tip and a smile before slamming the door. The taxi departed, leaving him standing on the cobblestone street of Boston's prestigious Back Bay neighborhood. Outside a tall, narrow, ostentatious brownstone, crunched side by side with several other tall, narrow, ostentatious brownstones. Micah whistled through his teeth. Apparently, Mr. Eldridge had been accurate in his description of his wealth.